Welcome to another West Tech Builds video. I just got Ego's new 8 amp hour max battery, which has the 2170 tabless cells, and I'm going to be comparing it to Ego's old 10 amp hour battery that they've had for a long time. This is the old one, and this is the new one. It's a little thinner and it's lighter. It is a little bit smaller in capacity, but has a lot of power output for that size. That means less internal resistance in these new tabless cells, which, long story short, means more power output with less heat production. And I'm going to be doing, one is a data-driven test, the other is more of an observation with my leaf blower. And we're going to be doing right now this test, and I'll meet you on some testing grounds to try out what this battery can do, one battery at a time, in this mini bike. Okay, I've got the bike on with the 10 amp hour battery. Now, on the camera, this probably doesn't look like much of a hill. It's a solid enough hill where, with my weight with this bike, we will definitely be challenging it on one battery, because 2 batteries is what it's made to operate on. So anyway, that's the 8. We're going to leave that over there. 10 is in there. I'm going to start a screen recording here so we can check voltage. Okay, screen recording is going. It is showing a 57.7 volts as our starting voltage. And so what that means is we're going to get kind of a starting baseline maximum voltage, and then we're going to head to see the minimum voltage as we're going up the hill, and then kind of what it comes back and rests at, and how quickly that comes back to its resting voltage at the top of the hill. We're going to put this in 3, which is my max power mode. That should be about 80 amps or 4.5 kilowatts is what the graph shows when I've used that before too. And according to the voltage sag, we will also see how much max power we can sustain when accelerating, but I'll do that here in a little bit. So we're going to start from here. We're just going to go straight up the hill at a full throttle acceleration in 3, 2, 1. There we go. Okay, that honestly felt pretty good. I was a little surprised it seemed to put in full power on one battery. That's a lot of current for one battery. It is burst, but nonetheless. And now we're at 57.2 up the hill. As we have just kind of come up here, it dropped a little bit and then has rested back, and we'll see that climb a little bit. So 57.3, and then I'll give that a couple more seconds, see if it comes up one more little bit to 57.4. We'll see. Yeah, not coming back very quickly. So yeah, comes up just a little bit, rested, about what you'd expect. Nothing crazy. We'll see if there's a noticeable difference with the 8 amp hour tablet cell. Oh boy. Now we have the 8 amp hour max battery in there, and it is showing 58.2 volts, which is tiny bit higher than what was the resting full voltage with that one. Can be a variety of factors. It's a slightly different chemistry, slightly different, more age on it, just by a tiny bit. But nonetheless, that's not really the important part. The important part is how much does it sag on the run. So let's see. I am going to put this in my pocket, get things ready. We have it on level 3 power, which is full power. We're gonna see if there is a noticeable difference here in 3, 2, 1. Boy, hard hitting again. And there we go. We'll come back to a rest right here. See what she says. Let's see. 57.6. Yep. And the voltage is coming up pretty quickly. So it went from 57.5 when I looked at it, and now it's going up to 57.7 now. So it recovered pretty quickly. But let's kind of review the data and see what it looks like. And yeah, now 57.8. So it does seem to be bouncing right back up pretty hard. Which would indicate less internal resistance. Okay, we have the 8 amp hour battery. We're going to do a first run. I'm going to cruise down here gently, and then we will start and do full power all the way down this runway here. And we will just focus on and see what wattage we actually pull sustained in 3, 2, 1. Full power, there we go. Okay, hopefully you can hear me. I'm all the way down here. We've got our screen recording going. I just looked at the 8 amp hour max run, and it held right at 4 kilowatts or 3.94, kind of back and forth throughout that run until, as your speed comes up, you get a little a less power as that speed comes up due to like the magnetical interferency, crazy fun stuff in electric motors. But anyway, so we're gonna start this test on the 10 amp hour in 3, 2, 1. Feels like a little less punch right as we start rolling. This would only get more exaggerated the colder the batteries are. So another test I want to do is refrigerating the batteries, getting them nice and cold and trying to charge and or discharge them to see the difference there, because that's where you can really notice voltage sag when you're colder and your internal resistance goes up even crazier. Okay guys, so we're gonna do a more, what I would say is a real world test. This is my 880 CFM blower. This is the second most powerful blower that Ego has right now. To their commercial one is the only one a little more. And this is a 10 amp hour battery. This is the 8 amp hour max. I'm gonna start with the baseline here. These are both charged to about 90%. So I charged them completely up, used them for something else, but they were about used equivalently. So this is indicative of a pretty much full charge. Very high state of charge. And what I'm going to do in this is I want to compare full power right now by just really the sound. I can compare what I feel when I'm using it, and I'm going to put the microphone next to it and kind of show the sound, because I can actually hear a noticeable difference, and I'll explain that in a little bit. But we'll start with the 10 amp hour and give it a shot, kind of use it on turbo mode, and this does show a noticeable bit of a voltage sag. And also the goal is right after this, I'm going to drain them down in my mower, and I'm going to cut my grass with those two batteries. And once they both hit about, I think I'm going to try to do 3 bars out of the 5 bars on the battery, I'm going to take them out and test kind of a lower state of charge. Where I notice the blower in turbo mode starts losing a little power is once it hits about 3 out of 5 bars. You notice a little bit on the 10 amp hour. So I want to be very curious about what will happen and what will be different about the 8 amp hour max versus the 10 is what I'm trying to test. And here we are. So this is a 10 amp hour battery. And so you are aware, these have both been stored at the same temperature, because temperature does change internal resistance. So these have been kind of in the garage, but exposed to outside air, probably 80 something degrees. And so they're the same temperature, very close state of charge wise. And I'm going to put the microphone here and let you hear kind of what it is when we go to high, and then when you hit turbo, what it does, because it's got some unique behaviors between this and the 8 amp hour. I'm going to put it right here for the test for both of them. You'll kind of hear the pitch and the differences. This is the 10. Now I'm going to do turbo. Okay, and let's see, I want to note some things. So this bar on the indicator here went from 5 to 4. So that indicates a little voltage sag running it like that. So let's try that with the 8 amp hour. Yeah, we'll just get right into it, do the same type of procedure. And now turbo. And running that, I will make note, I did not see this battery bar has still not dropped. So definitely some kind of difference. Could be a little bit with age and stuff on that battery potential. It is a 2021 made battery, manufacturer date, so there can be some differences there, but there's a clear difference in a combination of all the testing I've done so far. Now, what I'll probably do here in editing is let's compare back and forth the sounds between this and the 10 amp hour under load and see if there's a noticeable pitch or difference. I can feel a difference. So what I was noticing earlier is It's not massive on a blower because this is still not pulling a whole lot of current compared to a snow blower or my mini bike that I have from Ego or something like that. But there is a pitch difference. So when you go to turbo, it kind of hits turbo mode, and then instead of the voltage sagging or just holding a little bit, it tends to go into turbo mode and then slightly up, and that pitch just kind of clicks up a little bit more once you hold it in for about 2 or 3 seconds. Kind of an interesting little find, but yeah, let's compare side to side. Okay, and I've run these down a little bit to 3 bars, and they were run together, and in the mower it does try to drain them down symmetrically, so they should be at a very close state of charge. Heat-wise between these two, in terms of just feeling them, I haven't run them really hard for really long, so it's not going to be a huge difference, but this one feels a teeny tiny bit cooler, like under here. But there's plenty of actual data out on that. People have done hardcore tests between them for temperature specifically. But really, I'm just focused more on the real world. So let me set up and we'll put it back on the blower and see if there's a difference. This is the 10 amp hour, and we're going to run this test. This is with 3 out of 5 battery bars to see if the power has reduced, which I usually notice a slight power reduction at 3 bars. So we will see. By the way, the mower said about 42% between the 2 batteries when I pulled them out. So on the lower end, but not insanely low. A definite pitch difference. So you're definitely seeing a instead of a screaming, it's more of a slight yelling. So not exactly the same. Definitely a little less voltage times the same amperage gives you less wattage, less power. So we're definitely seeing a little bit of that here. Let's try the 8 amp hour max. 3 out of 5 battery bars. Let's test this one. Interesting. So I've never thought this battery gauge was completely accurate on here, but this one's showing 3 out of 5, and on the 10 amp hour it's showing 4 out of 5. So probably just not very accurate. Better to go by the battery's actual indicator. But nonetheless, that felt a little better. It's not full charge power, which you're never going to get full charge power when the amperage is constant and it doesn't adjust amperage for voltage dropping. So, but it did seem better, but we will edit them together and let's compare them side by side. What does this sound like? Oh God. Anyway, in conclusion, guys, let's go over what I think. Is this battery worth it based on just a little bit of testing I've done? Now, obviously, this doesn't account for everything. I might do a cold weather test, which is kind of deep freezing or refrigerating the batteries. There are other tests out there that show substantial thermal differences in this battery. But do I think the 8 amp hour max makes sense? Well, I'm going to give 2 scenarios here really quickly. Residential, commercial. At a high level, that's what everybody's doing. 99% of the use cases are just simple residential at home, or somebody's really hardcore using it commercially. Residential-wise, this is cool, but I do not think you need this for $600. It's way overkill. You'll never use much of the benefits of this because this is a really overkill leaf blower. I just like the power. But if you have like Ego's, 600 CFM leaf blower, this battery is going to do nothing for you because it's just not stressing these batteries enough to really see a benefit from this. The use cases where I think this battery really can make sense is, I haven't mentioned until now, but the cells in this 8 amp hour max battery are rated to last about twice as many cycles. And what that means is, if I'm a professional not using this, once a week like a residential, but I'm cycling this battery multiple times a day and I work 5 days a week, well, okay, if these batteries are rated for only 300 to 500 cycles under heavy use, then that adds up pretty quickly. Within a few years, you've already, kind of killed this battery. But if like this battery is rated for, I think it's somewhere like 800 plus cycles, well, now it makes a lot more sense to spend a little more money on a more powerful battery that charges way faster, because on a commercial setup, you can get a commercial charger that'll charge this in 20 minutes, which is incredibly fast for a small battery like this. So commercial wise, I think this makes a lot of sense, and I think just go for it if you're doing commercial and you're heavy use. These just make more sense, and you're going to get almost, under heavy use, you're going to get almost the same amount of runtime out of this as you will the 10 amp hour because of that internal resistance. But for residential purposes, really just doesn't make any sense. I don't think, maybe a few applications could be if you do a lot of snow, like heavy snow blowing. That takes a lot of power output. And so these batteries might do better in the cold and under heavy output while you're trying to move snow in the cold. So that could be an application. But for most people, it doesn't really make sense. But I still very much like this for me personally. And very cool to see some new options for people, especially as you're getting more and more people into the commercial space with electric tools. So thank you for watching another West Tech Builds video, and I'll see you in another one soon.